Hey guys, Bored Now back with you. On this video I will be talking about the first episode of Hulu's 9 Perfect Strangers. This is a limited series and the first episode is called Acts of Mayhem. So the first 3 episodes have gone up online on Hulu if you're in the US, or if you're in the UK like me, they're up on Amazon Prime. So I'm guessing after that it will just be 1 per week, but the first 3 are up there right now for you to check out. Big Little Lies team. Basically Nicole Kidman is back in a starring role, David E. Kelly is the writer, and then you have, it's from a novel by, I think it's Liane Moriarty, the same novelist as Big Little Lies. So it's this really bizarre, sort of creepy, like owner of this spa retreat that's meant to be like this new age style spa, but her name's Marsha, she's Russian, so Kidman clearly having a lot of fun with like the Russian accent with this spa. But she has this weird sort of backstory where she claims to have been like a businesswoman in Russia. She was like part of like a tech firm, and she kind of describes at one point about her past and how she just wasn't happy. She just kept drinking it all the time, taking drugs, and there's quite this trippy but playful like flashback type sequences, which is just kind of nuts but sort of funny as well, where we see all this stuff with her. But then she claims she died, she was shot dead, and it was a paramedic who like brought her back to life, revived her, and the paramedic is now working for her at the spa, which is a kind of bizarre like narrative. And that's how she got the idea for the spa. And the 9 Perfect Strangers of the title are obviously the 9 people who come to the spa. Character kind of says, this will change your life, this will make you have a whole different outlook on life. We've come here to die, you know, in a way you are deaf, you have to die to be relived. So it's this very sort of hippie notion of, yeah, just going through this stuff to almost become reborn. It's that kind of thing, and she has some pretty entertaining lines of dialogue. But with it being Nicole Kidman, she does have this very icy, kind of creepy sort of air, and there's just this sense that she's not on the level, and that this spa is like all too good to be true. And so in the opening episode we meet the various characters coming in. So you have, it's quite the cast by the way, Melissa McCarthy, who's a writer who's going through kind of writer's block, and she's wondering really if it's right to kill off her central character. There's like a funny conversation with her where she's debating with her publishers, is it feminist to kill off like a female lead character? So you have her character who comes in, you have a character Nancy played by Samara Weaving, who's there with her boyfriend who doesn't really want to be there, but Nancy is kind of a big social media type, and that's kind of her life, but they're there because their relationship isn't going too well. Samara Weaving actually does comedy really well. But there's various characters. There's the Michael Shannon character who, as is expected from a Michael Shannon character, there's this whole issue of can you trust him? Because he's here with his family, he's a teacher, and he's like probably the most enthusiastic one. Obviously there's this big myth around Marsha, and there's sort of this anticipation for her first appearing, and when she does, it's obviously quite the moment. It's like this big entrance for Kidman, and she obviously just randomly appears in Francis's room. Michael Shannon character is like almost like the biggest fan of hers. He says, we've got the golden ticket. This is amazing how cheap this all is. He's saying stuff like that, and he's there because his wife Heather, is having like emotional problems, and they're there with their daughter, and who seems like could be quite an interesting character on her own. But I think one of the most human moments is actually a scene when the Shannon character just at one point sits and comforts his wife because she's clearly having a sort of a breakdown, and it portrays that quite well, where her mood swings sort of come out of nowhere, and she is suddenly very unstable because she actually seems like a reasonably calm person a lot of the time, but there's a scene where he has to comfort her and sort of talk her down, and it's quite a nice little scene. But again, I think there's just this air with the Shannon character. Can you really trust him? And maybe not, because he's Michael Shannon, but it's hard to say because they are riffing off this sort of hippie, like indie type vibe with him, where he's like seems to be like calm and really positive, but there just seems something a little bit forced. It seems like he is maybe going through a midlife crisis, that kind of thing, where he just wants to be down and hip. Because another good scene is actually when he's in the spa, and it's with, or the sauna, and it's with the Nancy character and her boyfriend. And him and Nancy are like getting on and sort of talking, and he's impressed by her boyfriend's car. And there's a line where it says, could I give it a spin? And he's like, sure. But that's the only thing you'll be giving a spin. It only applies to my car, not to my wife. And it's just this really awkward sort of scene. And Nancy's like, oh, come on, don't be rude sort of thing. And it's just this awkward sort of scene because as soon as the boyfriend has made that remark, there's a lot of tension in the air, and the Shannon character kind of deflates it with, "Yeah, don't worry, I'm on the level. I respect I'm happily married and all that stuff." But I think it's just the sort of scene we can expect more. You also have the Tony character, Bobby Carnival, who's very good. I really enjoy the back and forth between him and Melissa McCarthy. I have to say, Melissa McCarthy, I think, steals the episode. I think she's really great. She just has this energy and it's very believable as this sort of quite highly strung author. And they have some good chemistry, her and Bobby Carnival's Tony, because he's like the polar opposite. He's like this backpacking, sort of bearded, sort of liberal type character, but who is very sort of blunt and upfront at times. And one of the funniest scenes is just the visual of him like peeing against this big tree, because that's just the sort of thing he does. He doesn't go looking for a toilet. He just does it out in the open in nature. And that's with another character there at the time. That's the Carmel character. But yeah, there's some good stuff with McCarthy and with Carnival. I think with Carnival, it's almost like he's playing a Bobby Carnival style character, but at the same time, he looks completely different. But I look forward to their relationship because they have a really funny scene when she's coming in the car and kind of gets out of the car and just screams at one point. And you can tell that these characters are the total opposite, because he's like suggesting, hey, do you need like medical support? Do you need drugs to bring you down? And it's like, and that just offends her. So I'm looking forward to more of those characters. Just a couple more things. I mean, Kamau is an interesting character because she on the face of it seems the less sort of eccentric and highly strung and maybe the most likable, maybe apart from the daughter of Michael Shannon, and definitely making a comment on race here, because she's African American. She's very nervous about her appearance, and you know there's just these quite demeaning, patronising lines about her. And I think at one point in that really funny scene with Tony peeing against the tree, he makes this sort of, well, he calls her by the wrong name, and then when she's talking to him, he's not really paying attention. He's talking about something else sort of completely. And I think later on, when she meets Marsha for the first time, they're doing this whole vibe of Marsha's like really talking down to her as this kind of, you know, above it all, like white sort of almost goddess. So I think they're definitely playing with the whole race thing and this sense of like a black person being a minority and being lost and not being seen by this super white sort of presence. If Kevin's character, who just sounds like Luke Evans, really, just putting on a slightly different accent, but he's there, I think, because there's some sort of relationship issues, or he's got, at one point he's on the phone to a guy who could be his boyfriend or could just be a family member, but there's some sort of tension there. And he's another one, he's quite sort of blunt and open with how he's feeling and quite sort of, you know, doesn't really tone it down. He's quite sort of direct. And he has quite an interesting scene with the daughter. Oh, her name is, but at one point she stumbles upon him. And she kind of calls him out on some of his bullshit. Because she's really not having a good time. She's really bored and just wants to go home. And he's like, well, it's all bullshit, isn't it? And she's like, well, you're paying for this. Basically, that kind of deal. So there could be some interesting stuff. They seem to at least kind of hit it off in that scene. And yeah, that's mostly it. I mean, there's stuff where Marsha has taken like an item from all of them, because there's just certain items she feels like is inappropriate in this sort of, in the spa retreat. They're not allowed to have like contact with the outside world. She takes chocolate of Francis, which really annoys Francis. So it's that kind of thing, and it all ends with the big scene where they all meet Marsha. First episode, at least. I'm not quite sure where it's going, but I enjoyed it. I thought it was fun. They've obviously cast it nicely. It was entertaining, and I think it was entertaining in the sort of way where you can imagine characters like this exist. How much you can tolerate them, I think, might be big in how good the series is. Obviously only a limited series, but so far I like the casting, I like the characters, and there was some intrigue set up. So that's 9 Perfect Strangers, the first episode. I will be back soon with episode 2, my thoughts on that, but let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Please like and subscribe. You can also share me out on social media. And just to plug something else current and new which I'm doing on the channel at the moment, is I'm doing the Stars Play series Heels, about the world of sort of independent wrestling and an independent promoter and his life outside of it as well. So that's sort of a weekly show as well. So I've done the first episode and I will be doing episode 2 soon. So another thing to look out for on the channel. But take care, guys. See you later.